folks, I would love to tell you where today's crossover comes from. We're going to be talking about Secret 6 issue 30 and Doom Patrol issue 19, and I'm not really sure why. The last time the Six encountered the Patrol, the meeting/battle happened totally under Gail Simone's writing, as seen in the Secret 6 miniseries. But this time, the Doom Patrol have their own book, this one written by Keith Giffen. Did Simone want to work with Giffen? Did Giffen want to work with Simone, a la Paul Cornell in our last episode? I can't find a single interview with either author regarding this crossover to indicate any kind of answer. Typically, if a crossover isn't initiated by the creative or editorial teams of a book, that means that it's meant to boost the sales of the books involved. You know, introduce the Secret Six's audience to Doom Patrol and maybe get some more eyes on that book. Or vice versa, that's possible. But this volume of Doom Patrol ended with issue 22, just 3 issues after the one we're going to be talking about. So if the goal here was to save the Doom Patrol, then that really failed. And unfortunately for us, the Secret 6 ends in 6 issues as well. Something that no one knew at the time of publication, but we know. And so if saving that book was the goal, we have another failure. Neither of these books were doing well at the time of publication, and I can't see the audience of either being enough to save them. As of yet, I have no answer for you guys. For now, the mystery of where this particular crossover came from will remain. My name is Ben, and this is Comic Book Breakdown episode Secret 6.16, Suicide Roulette. Before I go into the issue, I would like to welcome Cliff Chiang back to cover duties for Secret 6 issue 30. It is a nice action pose of Catman and Deadshot. It's nothing terribly amazing, but it just looks good. I especially dig Chiang's colors. It's just such a clean look. Inside, we open on a young man playing video games. This is Eric, whose mom asks if he's going to go job hunting today. He said that he would, but Eric replies that no, Kevin said that. Cue Kevin, Eric's stepfather, who basically enters the room and kicks his stepson out of the house. Eric turns to his mom for defense, for support, for anything, but she actually agrees that this will be good for him. He has until the end of the day to get out. Kevin then leaves, going to his job, and Eric's mom hands him an envelope. His grandfather left it for him. And only him. Shell-shocked, Eric retreats to his room. What's he going to do now? At a total loss, he opens the envelope from his grandfather, which contains a DVD. He puts it in, and the video shows his grandfather, emaciated and in a hospital bed. Grandpa explains that he's got cancer everywhere that counts, including there, if you know what I mean, and he has nothing to leave Eric save his story and his wisdom. No, he's also leaving him a particle cannon, his 4 mistresses. I'm not sure that's how mistresses work, but okay, and $3 billion. Whoa. So this is kind of an off-kilter opening for the Six. It's also an off-kilter origin for a supervillain, which is where this is ultimately going. Interestingly, I feel like Simone is trying to make us sympathetic to Eric and hate him. We see lots of evidence that Eric just doesn't try at anything. His hair is a dirty mop, he's neither clean-shaven nor groomed, he's just got a little Shaggy-style scrap of facial hair. He's a bit of a smartass to his folks, and, when we move to his room, it's a mess. I appreciate his Starfire poster, but come on, man, it's called a vacuum, and they're easy to operate. You turn it on and move across the floor, it would take you like 5 minutes, man. It's not hard. As annoyed by Eric as I am, though, I don't hate him either. Kevin, who really does feel like a crappy stepdad, is unsupportive, mean, and is insulting to Eric. His mom feels pretty detached from all of this, following Kevin's lead because he's the father here. It feels like neither one knows how to reach Eric, so they're both just getting rid of him. But we also don't get much info on them otherwise. Have they been talking to Eric about getting a job, or just threatening him? Have they expressed concern about his future? Have they tried to instill good habits like, I don't know, cleaning, self-reliance, and dependability? Or is Eric just considered a waste of space to them? I can't really say one way or the other. We only get like 3 pages here, which leaves me in this weird middle ground of just general annoyance. We'll catch up on Eric's inheritance later, because for now we bounce over to the Secret Six, where Bane is about to go on a date. It's kind of adorable. Bane, Scandal, and her girlfriend Liana are outside of Superior's, the gentleman's club that Liana works at. Bane is dressed in a smart suit and tie, armed with flowers and chocolates. He is uncomfortable, but, quote, "I am Bane. I endure," unquote. The 3 move inside, and we encounter a Greek chorus of super strippers, modeled after Huntress, Black Canary, and Harley Quinn. These are Liana's friends, Denise, Alyssa, and Elise, and they freaking love Bane. While they fawn all over him, Bane is just kind of confused by all of the attention and glee that's being delivered to him, and Scandal just stands off to the side, enjoying his discomfort. Liana then introduces Bane's date for the evening, a fellow stripper named Spencer. She leaves Bane speechless. Liana prompts him to say something nice to his date, so Bane offers her the flowers and the chocolates and says that he wishes to mate. Shall they begin negotiations? Scandal and Liana jump in here with some fake laughter. oh, Bane, you are so funny. Liana explains that he's going to take her to the ballet, and then they're going to go to dinner. Spencer likes dancing, so that's cool. But things get even more awkward when a regular at Superior's grabs her around the waist. This is Mr. Carver, and he just got a promotion at his job and a raise, and he wants to show it to her. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, say no more, say no more. Liana and Spencer both try to explain that she's off the clock, but Carver is slightly smashed, and he ain't listening. Liana is about to get a bouncer when Bane offers his own strength. Calmly, Bane punches Carver in the face. And I mean calmly. Bane's face is blank. There is no emotion. He doesn't even twist his body to put weight into the blow. He just pops Carver in the face, and Carver's face, falls in. The bouncer who runs up even comments that Carver's face looks like a Belgian waffle now. Wow. Bane holds his fist up. He's unsure of the etiquette of where the date goes now. Should he snap this guy's spine? Scandal says no and begins to push him out of the building. Maybe they better reschedule. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Before she manages to get him out, though, Spencer stops them both. He will call her. Bane agrees to this, and then they leave. This is one of those things that makes Secret Six special, and it's really been lacking for our last 2 arcs. And that's the characters. Watching an immoral or amoral group like the Six try to do normal things like go on a date or go grocery shopping is great. Simone perfectly balances their eccentricities with reality, creating enjoyable scenes like this one. Bane grew up in a prison outside of societal norms, so a lack of knowledge or skill when it comes to dating is appropriate, and his very accepting personality makes it hilarious. I'm still kind of unsure of how much Liana knows about Scandal and the Six and, what their jobs are. The last time we saw Liana was... Jesus, it was at the start of Dance Macabre when Bane grilled her about her date with Scandal. She seemed confused as to who Bane was and how he related to Scandal, but here she says that she's been talking Bane up to the other dancers. And he seems much more accepting of both her and her relationship with Scandal, going so far as to trust her to set up a blind date. So this feels a little bit weird in terms of the background setup, but it is interesting at least. And given our last 2 arcs, I will take interesting. We move back to Eric's story then. Or rather Kevin's, I guess. He's returning home, tired for work and ready for a shot of bourbon. But when he goes inside, the lights don't work, and Eric is waiting for him. Hey, Kevin. Kevin is confused as to what's going on here, but he turns angry very quickly. He asks after his wife, who is out with friends. Eric then asks if Kevin knew what his grandfather did for a living. Kevin replies that he was a traveling salesman. He was a bit of a bum, actually. Kevin can see the same quality in his grandson. Which is when Eric corrects him. No, you see, he was a crime boss. Eric stands, revealing himself to be in a nice suit, his blonde hair slicked back, a martini in one hand, and some kind of high-tech gun in the other. Grandpa was part of the 100, which he describes as the gods of crime. These guys wore suits and ties in order to rob banks. It's pretty cool, actually. Kevin, however, isn't buying any of this. And even if that bullcrap is true, it's not true for Eric. He is a loser, and he will always be a loser. Eric fires his gun, which is a laser gun of some kind, and it burns away Kevin's entire torso. Eric calmly walks out of the house, singing "Fly Me to the Moon" pretty badly. Well, that escalated quickly. Reading this scene kind of helps solidify my confusion over Eric's narrative. Because actually, what's happening here is that Gail Simone is crushing it. We're so used to reading villains as heroic characters in this book, or semi-heroic, or at least sympathetic, given that we're reading a book about the Secret Six. We've gotten to know those characters and fall in love with them, and seeing the creation of Eric plays on those emotions. At this point, Simone knows that we're predisposed to like the bad guys in this book, and Eric is a bad guy. We aren't supposed to like him. We can look at his situation and we can sympathize, sure, but Eric is still a nasty little jerk who just killed someone. Simone is building Eric into a villain. I'll admit, it's a shallow villain, but he's a villain nonetheless, which is where I think my confusion stems from. I didn't realize this, but the 100 is an actual thing in the DCU. They're an organized crime family, and their members have gone up against heroes like Superman, Halo, who I've never heard of, Rose and Thorn, who I've barely heard of, and even Black Lightning. So that was something new that I learned. I thought that Simone was just making things up, but until it occurred to me to Google. Simone then sends us to Oolong Island, where we catch up with the Doom Patrol. Their lineup has changed since we last encountered them. It now includes Robot Man, Negative Man, and Elasti-Woman, all of whom are patrol mainstays. They've also got Bumblebee and new team member Ambush Bug. Robot Man is out fishing for one of the Chief's escaped bio-accidents. The Chief, by the way, is basically the Professor X of the Doom Patrol, but with more mad scientists thrown in. The group was concerned about Robot Man, so they came out to see what he was up to. Elasti-Woman suggests that they leave the poor thing alone. If anyone knows what it's been through, they have. And Robot Man would normally agree. But this bio-accident has begun eating tourists, so it's time for it to go. Negative Man then asks Robot Man what he's using for bait, and he reels his line in. He's mostly been using 1960s skin mags, although he hasn't been having much luck with the blondes. He'll probably switch to redhead soon. But his prey has other tastes, and it leaps into the air, snatching Bumblebee in its mouth. And this thing is big. It is about as long as Robot Man is tall, with the body of a large fish, the face of a man, but with thin, needle-like teeth. It's pretty creepy. Negative Man tries to possess the Fishman, but it doesn't work. This does seem to kind of stun the Fishman, though, which gives Elasti-Woman time to grab it and free Bumblebee. While everyone's happy to have her free, Robot Man points out that something must have bit Elasti-Woman, because she is missing her leg from the knee down. Ooh. Ordinarily, a scene like this would be used to introduce what the patrol's lineup is, what they can do, and who they are as people. But I don't think that the scene actually does that very well. Yes, we do get to see the cast, and we do get to see demonstrations of their powers. Ambush Bug can change shape into seemingly anything, Negative Man can possess people, Elasti-Woman can enlarge herself, Bumblebee shrinks and flies, and Robot Man is... well, he's a Robot Man, it's pretty self-explanatory. But no one ever actually calls Elasti-Woman Elasti-Woman here. They use her first name, Rita. No one tells us that she recently discovered that her body is kind of like living silly putty, which is why she can not only grow bigger, but increase or decrease the size of parts of her body. Her hands tend to grow larger pretty frequently in this crossover, but as the audience, we don't know that. While this isn't terribly egregious, it still bugs me, and it doesn't help our understanding as readers. And, despite the relative calm of the scene, it's mostly just the patrol interacting with each other, I don't feel like I understand who they are and how they relate to each other. Why does this matter, Ben? The last time we saw the Doom Patrol, you didn't care about how they interacted with each other and who they were as people. And you're right, I didn't care, because we, as an audience, weren't interacting with the Doom Patrol as people there. They were enemies, a threat, an obstacle to be overcome. We followed the Secret Six to the patrol and then through the patrol. Who they were as a group wasn't important, and it wasn't what the author was focusing on. Here, with this encounter, Simone is specifically introducing the team as people, with a focus on comedy in an attempt to endear them to us. She isn't even introducing them as the defenders of Oolong Island, which they are. They're just some friends who followed one of their friends out to a fishing spot. If Simone wanted to treat the patrol as just a threat, like before, we would have stayed with the Six, seen their plan to attack this island, and then ended with the two teams encountering each other. But we didn't. We're here meeting the patrol. And while we do need some form of introduction, because remember, the Secret Six miniseries would have been something like 4 or 5 years old at this point, and then modern readers may not have read it. They might not have known about the previous fight between these two groups. But this is a bad way to go about that introduction. We continue to play catch-up on Eric's story as he recruits new members into his version of the 100, which is basically his D&D group. They're in the middle of a session, actually, when he enters the basement with 4 beautiful women surrounding him. He lays down the deal to these guys. They are gonna make crime stylish again. But in order to do so, they're going to need an island and a base. In a volcano, baby. And, okay, no swearing that you are, Eric. I totally approve of this part of the plan. A volcano base does sound super sweet. We then finally come back around to the Secret Six. It was actually King Shark who bit off Elasti-Woman's leg, and he rises from the water to read a declaration. It's from Crush, the companions recently united to spread hate, and they want this island for their secret base. Yeah, Eric has hired the Secret Six. The Secret Six are now working for a jobless teen with a newfound fascination for the Rat Pack. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Although $3 billion spends just the same, I guess, regardless of who's giving it to you. They were hired to do the job, and do the job they shall. There really isn't a lot going on in this fight as the Secret Six take on the Doom Patrol. And there's fighting, to be sure, but it's not a very good type of fighting. There's no thought put into the pairings or interesting character interactions here. It's just a fight. During said fight, Eric, his friends, and his foxy ladies are watching the chaos in their hovercraft. Their hovercraft, which is labeled with an insignia that says Smash, not Crush, so I'm not sure why that's wrong. Did Eric have his jet labeled incorrectly? Did he buy an aircraft from an organization called Smash and then not paint over the logo? Did Simone write the wrong name into the script, or did Calafiore draw the wrong logo onto the plane? Maybe Kevin was right. Maybe Eric will always be a loser. For those wondering why the Six would be cool with enslaving an island population for some rich punk, given that they have shown a hesitation to enslave anybody up to this point, they aren't. Eric tells his colleagues and us that not enslaving the population was actually one of the conditions that, specifically, the ladies of the Six, most likely meaning Black Alice, Scandal, and Jeanette, set for the job. But that's kind of lame in his opinion. Maybe he should just kill them too. He turns to his ladies, who are suited up for a parachute jump and armed with explosives. Quote, "There's no rule that a suicide bomber can't be foxy," unquote. The women jump, and they know where they're going. The girls and the explosive detonate, setting off the volcano, which draws the attention of everyone on the island, including our two warring super teams. I'm left feeling really conflicted on this issue. There's something that I actually really like about Eric and Crush, and it's silly, open acceptance of supervillainy. There's no amazing plan here, or stunning plot, or hidden surprise to Eric's anything. He's just a greedy jackass with no idea of what else to do, who wants to spend his money, have a good time, and he doesn't care if anyone gets hurt. Dr. Doom, he ain't, but there's enough of Dr. Evil here that I'm kind of having a good time. I am puzzled as to why his friends go along with this, or why the mistresses do. I mean, Eric is clearly acting differently than he did before, where his first encounter with Kevin has him as a meek, quiet, and withdrawn guy. Here he's confident, arrogant, and cocky. But they go along with him, even going so far as to wear suits like he now does. And sure, he's got a boatload of money and hot ladies with him, and for a group of young guys without a lot of world experience, this can seem like a fun ride. But Eric has his foxy lady suicide bomb a volcano! That's a line. That's a huge warning flag that things are not right here. And to be fair, one of them, a guy named Leo, does show concern for the foxy ladies when Eric sends them to their deaths. They aren't monsters just blindly following his lead, but they are in over their heads and don't understand how far Eric is willing to go. It's wishy-washy, but I can believe this relationship, even if I think it's stupid. I especially don't get the foxy ladies. I can buy that once Eric has $3 billion that he can buy the attention of women. Sure. But these are his grandfather's old lovers. Remember, he left them to Eric in his will, and, as further proof, one of them even comments that Eric reminds her of his grandfather when he tells them to go blow themselves up. But why are they willing to do that? I can see the ladies wanting the money, or even actually being in love with Grandpa, sure, but why does that loyalty and or love shift to Eric? And to be so loyal as to die for him? What? Who the hell does that? These women basically exist to show how uncaring and shallow a character Eric is. That even having gained the loyalty and, I guess, love of these women, he doesn't appreciate it, and he just squanders it. Eric could have just had those explosives dropped into the volcano. The ladies didn't have to die. And then we come around to the Six's involvement. We've seen the Six work for some sketchy people before. That's not something I really have a problem with. This is actually probably one of the least evil things that they've been hired to do, especially demanding the non-enslavement of the population to begin with. And Scandal reminds the team to try not to kill anyone that they don't have to. So they're doing the best they can to stick to some kind of morality, which is great. But I don't see how the Six plan to take over this island. I mean, there's 6 people versus an island. The Six don't even have a way to transport the population off of the island, so how do they plan to do that? I suppose that Black Alice could teleport everyone off the island, but we don't use magic intelligently here, do we? And even with a general lack of a plan, we still have the actual managerial bodies of Oolong Island who show up right at the end of the book. Why didn't the Six attack them? With their firepower and skills, they probably could have taken the leadership of the island and then either kill them or take them hostage, thus removing the power structure that backs up the Doom Patrol. This book has verbally played up Bane's tactical nature and planning abilities over and over, but where are those skills now when you actually need them? The only reason that the Six fight the Patrol is so that the Six can fight the Patrol. Rather than having this narrative turn feel justified, it feels gratuitous and empty. I am getting real nervous about how this crossover is going. Doom Patrol issue 19 opens with the 2 teams witnessing the volcano erupting. Robot Man realizes that this is a huge threat, not just to the island that the patrol is supposed to be protecting, but yeah, to the fighting super teams as well. But the Six don't care and continue to fight. And I'll buy that they're stubborn enough and maybe stupid enough to keep on fighting with an exploding volcano casually threatening their existence. During the fight, Ambush Bug turns into a vacation home and traps Jeanette inside. Ragdoll approaches a momentarily stunned Negative Man, but he's stopped by an attacking pelican. A whole team of super weirdos to fight, and Ragdoll is stopped by a wild pelican attack. You guys can't see it, but I am pinching the bridge of my nose in frustration. Thankfully, Negative Man is just as confused by that turn of events as I am. Unthankfully, I get even more confused when an army of scientists run out of the bush armed with laser guns and open fire on the Six. Scandal and Catman are caught off guard by this too, and I do like their reactions, but what the hell? How many more surprise things are going to show up to save the Doom Patrol? Is this a regular occurrence for them being saved by wild animals and the Legion of Nerds? Elsewhere on the island, at Central Command? The base of operations? The White House? I don't know, somewhere where there are monitors and chairs and people in uniforms and headsets, a blonde woman in a big blue coat is as confused as I am. This is Blanca, who I believe is in charge of defense of Oolong Island. Which sucks for her, because she's got a small invasion going on, an erupting volcano, and an army of rogue nerds to corral. But she does so, although it's a bit exasperatedly and angrily. With lava flowing towards the nearest city, Blanca orders the evacuation to begin with a focus on castes, meaning the social stratification of the people on the island. She wants tech and tech support to be saved. The rest are expendable. Blanca then sighs as she's informed of a call from Oolong Island's president, a woman named Kale. President Kale wants Smash's ship, meaning Eric's ship, shot the hell down. There's a bit of an argument as Kale and Blanca fight over priorities and how to resolve them, but Blanca does shift Elastowoman to lava control to help. Elastowoman increases her size, and the size of her hands to dig ditches for the lava to divert to. President Kale then contacts Smash's ship personally. There was a brief scene of Eric and what he's trying to accomplish earlier in this issue, establishing that he hired the Six and detonated the volcano, so any Doom Patrol readers who missed Secret 630 are now relatively up to speed. And that was some economical writing, too. Anyway, Kale calls Eric and tells him to GTFO. Because he's a cocky little worm, Eric initially has no interest in complying. But then Eric's pilot/communications expert Foxy Lady informs him that she has a positive lock on 7 ground-to-air missiles that have locked onto them. So Eric actually does the smart thing and leaves. He might be a cowardly loser, but at least he can learn. That action strands the Secret Six, though, which means a change of plans is in order. The patrol get a few more punches in before realizing that the Six aren't really fighting back anymore. They want off this dumb island. Their paycheck just flew off. So the patrol sticks them on a jet and gets them off the island. There are some more pages in the book remaining, and they naturally focus on the patrol and patrol-related story elements. President Kale isn't impressed by the Doom Patrol's abilities, especially in light of this attack. So she hires some other superheroes who show up at the very end to evict/fire the patrol, and I don't recognize them at all. Ooh la la, I am done with this. There is a lot going on in this issue, and author Keith Giffen doesn't really explain it all very well. I have no idea what's going on Oolong Island. I can piece together some semblance of the status quo. Kale is president, and Blanca is the head of defense or something similar, but we aren't really told that by the author. We're not really shown that effectively either. If the idea of this crossover was to introduce the patrol to Six's readers and then keep that audience around, then this issue does not do a very good job. I can't be interested in this island because I don't understand what's happening on it. I will admit that the patrol read much better in this as compared to Secret 6 issue 30. Their voices feel more solidified, which is amazing given how little story time they actually get. Robot Man feels jaded after years of adventuring, Elastowoman is tired of taking everyone's crap, and the rest of the cast are really so background as to just be unoffensive. Blanca and Kale get more page time and have stronger story elements than Bumblebee, Negative Man, or Ambush Bug. Hell, Negative Man's most notable accomplishment is being saved by a pelican. What a hero. But enough about the Doom Patrol. We're here for the Secret Six, Flab Nabbit. What about them? How do they read? They're okay. Giffen doesn't quite have their voices down. There's a moment where Bane catches Bumblebee and says that Jeanette was right, size does matter. And while that's a pretty decent joke, it's not something that Bane would say. Another moment has Catman state that he killed his grandfather when he was 12, but Catman doesn't really talk about his family. He especially doesn't joke about it if you read Catman's delivery as a flippant joke. So the voices are off, and I'll totally admit that, but it's not in a way that's like super terrible. Honestly, they read as well as I would expect from a crossover tie-in issue. Art for this issue is handled by a 4-man team, which you really don't see often. Matthew Clark and Ron Randall penciled the issue, while Art Thibert and Sean Parsons did the inking. Clark and Randall pair pretty well together. Their styles mesh pretty decently. This could be to the inker's credit as well, as they had to marry the differing art styles. Characters are draw-on-model, even keeping some of the smaller details from the ends of Secret 6 issue 30. After having her leg bitten off by King Shark, Elasti-Woman grows a new one, but her costume doesn't grow with it, leaving her new limb bare. That kind of detail is great, and I love to see it carry over. Unfortunately, I don't really care for the art in general. It's not bad, it's just not to my personal tastes. Given the amount of characters and locales in this book, I think the art team actually did a great job managing everything. So we've seen the rise and momentary setback of Eric and Crush or Smash or whatever you want to call them. I would say that their story elements are perhaps my least favorite thing in this arc, but I kind of like the idea of keeping them around as like joke villains. I'd love to see Eric continuously pop up in the DCU with harebrained schemes that always fail only to try again and again. Hell, if Eric wasn't such a misogynist, I'd love to see him hire Scandal to run his evil business empire, actually. While there isn't a lot of depth here in this particular story, I do feel like there's a lot of story potential in Eric and his situation, and I'd love to see that explored more. I won't, but I would have loved to see it. Bane's almost date was great, and we'll pick up on that later again in the series. We got a good foundation here for that story, and I'll take it. The Six versus the Patrol fight wasn't really anything notable. There are no real moments of clever power usage or strategy or teamwork. It's just a brawl. Perhaps the coolest moment was during Elasti-Woman's fight with Black Alice. In order to fight her bigger opponent, Alice used Giganta's power, matching the 50-foot-tall woman. But Elasti-Woman needs to go deal with the lava, so she grows even larger, dwarfing the gigantic Alice. It immediately shows how powerful and dangerous Elasti-Woman can be, and it's pretty dang cool. Otherwise, it's a fight scene. While this crossover reads marginally better than our last, it still isn't very good. That means that our last 3 arcs, or our last 6 issues of this book, have been pretty subpar. From Reptile Brain to now, I'm kinda disappointed. But why? The first 2 years of the Secret Six are pretty solid. Even the one-shot palette cleansers were at least enjoyable, well-written reads. So why not these stories? What happened here? I have a theory. Reading each arc of the book so far, and the next 2 that are coming, you can really see the care and focus that Simone put into them all. And if some of Reptile Brain's ideas were expanded upon, I think that it could have been a much stronger arc as well. So I think that Simone planned all of these arcs out as roughly 6-issue arcs, including Reptile Brain. But then, however, and for whatever reason, she had to take part in these crossovers. Now, to be fair, Simone could have been more than happy to do these. Getting the opportunity to work with another author is probably a lot of fun, and it would help maintain her vision of who the Six are in books that she's not writing. It is possible that she could have been forced to do the crossovers too. DC editorial could have just made that decision for her, forcing her to give up 2 issues of Reptile Brain and thus cutting the story short. These 2 crossovers certainly feel like the least thought out stories in the narrative. They also don't further any piece of the Six's story or story elements. They're like foreign bodies invading healthy cells, weakening the entire structure, which is really a shame. If it was possible to trade these 2 issues and get a full-length Reptile Brain arc, I would do it in a heartbeat. Unfortunately, it's impossible to tell just by reading the books. But we're gonna keep reading the books, dang it. There are only 6 issues left in the Secret Six, 2 more story arcs, and let me tell you, they are a doozy. Put on your spiked leathers, put on your black eyeliner, and practice those devil horns, folks. 'Cause we're going to hell. Join me next week as we enter the darkest house. Everyone, there are a million podcasts vying for your time and attention, and I'd like to thank you for listening to mine. If you would like to get in touch with me to share a concern, request a series, compliment me, berate me, whatever you like, send me an email at cbbreakdown@gmail.com. Otherwise, thanks for listening.